In today's video, I will be covering Frida Kahlo's life from 1922 to 1925. And all of the content from today's video is taken directly from the biography of Frida Kahlo as written by Hayden Herrera, which is so lovely. It includes letters and pictures and so many references. So if that is of interest to you, then I will have it linked in the description box, as well as a link to my blog post where I have a detailed outline of a lot of other different sources that you would love to reference. Álvaro Obregón Salido, general in the Mexican Revolution, became the 46th president of Mexico from 1920 to 1924. President Álvaro Obregón appointed José Vasconcelos as his Minister of Public Education. José Vasconcelos was a lawyer and philosopher of post-científico generations and aimed to make Mexican education truly Mexican. His motto, our blood, our language, and our people. Vasconcelos launched a crusade to make Mexico literate and ordered construction of 1,000 rural schools and marshaled an army of teachers to take books and the flag into surrounding areas. During the 34-year dictatorship of Porfirio Diaz, the nation's course of study was determined by the científicos, scientific ones, a group of accountants, lawyers, and intellectuals, all men, who idealized modern Europe for their cultural and economic models and despised indigenous Mexican culture. They allowed the exploitation of Mexico's natural resources and industry by foreign hands. As a result, it took a decade of revolution to return Mexico to Mexicans. In 1922, Frida Kahlo entered the National Preparatory School, the best educational institution in Mexico. Of the 2,000 students in attendance, Frida was one of 35 women to be admitted. Between 1921 and 1922, Vasconcelos commissioned a number of artists to paint murals that glorified Mexican history and culture in public walls, one of which was the Preparatory. This initiative was fueled by his belief that art could inspire social change. Diego Rivera, then 36 years old, was one of those artists. This is where Frida and Diego would meet. In the summer of 1923, Frida Kahlo and Alejandro Gómez Arias fell in love. On November 30th of 1923, a rebellion against President Álvaro Obregón arose. Between December of 1923 and January of 1924, Frida and Alejandro, Alex, were not able to see each other due to the hostility and violence incited by the rebellion. In January of 1924, José Vasconcelos resigned as Minister of Education in protest to the ruthless suppression of the rebels. Soon after, he was persuaded to resume his post. This revolt finally ended in March with 7,000 dead, although the political environment remained volatile. In June, Vasconcelos resigned for the last time in protest against the election of Plutarco Elias Calles as President of Mexico. During the summer of 1925, Frida finds herself in a devastating situation while job hunting and briefly becomes intimately involved with a successful commercial painter. September 17, 1925. Frida and Alejandro suffer Frida's life-altering trolley collision. I will cover this event in detail in my next installment of the series. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Gibson with Kaleidoscopes and Polka Dots, where I sell handmade, vintage-inspired jewelry for the soul that's in love with the past, wholeheartedly lives in the present, and embraces the future. If you enjoy videos relating to vintage fashion, jewelry, and books, then please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, and sign up to my newsletter where I share weekly updates about what's going on around here and other stuff, as well as a 20% off discount code. So be sure to check that out. Now, today I will be doing my second installment of my Frida Kahlo series. I think this is going to be a lot longer than what I initially expected because I recently acquired the biography of Frida Kahlo, the one that everybody loves to read, and for good reason. It's the one that the movie was actually based off of. However, the movie is just under 2 hours, I think, whereas the book is over 500 pages, has a ton of references, and is very detailed. So here I am probably going to be doing 1 chapter to 2 chapters per episode. In today's video, I will be just covering her years while in school. I will not be covering the accident today. It took place on September 17th of 1925. That will be the next episode. If that's something you're interested in, please stick around. Frida entered the National Preparatory School, which was more of a college than a secondary school, in 1922 when she was 14 years old. While a tomboy at heart, she loved to play dress up. While the school didn't have a uniform, she showed up wearing a German high school student's uniform consisting of a dark blue pleated gabardine skirt, thick stockings, boots, and a broad-brimmed black straw hat with ribbons down the back. She wore her thick black hair with bangs cut straight across her forehead in the typical flapper fashion of the time. At other times, she opted for wearing men's clothing, which provoked the conservative mothers of her classmates to exclaim, "Qué niña tan fea! What an ugly little girl!" Her friends, on the other hand, found her fascinating. As in most schools, the National Preparatory School conjured a number of cliques. Frida intermingled among three of them. First, the Contemporáneos, a literary group. Second, the Maestros. And third, the Cachuchas, named after the caps they all wore and famous for their brains and mischief. They weren't politically involved, yet they adapted a kind of romantic socialism mixed with nationalism. Of the three, she most connected with the Cachuchas. As one of the group members remembers, it was a joking attitude we had towards people and things that drew Frida to us. Not because she had a habit of laughing at other people, but because it captivated her, and she began to learn it, and ended by becoming a master of the pun. The Cachuchas' antics were both impressive and at times torturous. In one instance, they rode a donkey through the halls, which caused classrooms to empty. In another, they lit a web of fireworks around a dog and sent him running through the hallways. While incredibly witty and smart, Frida was not the best student. She earned good grades without putting forth much effort and often skipped class given that she didn't want to sit through the lectures of ill-prepared and boring teachers. Occasionally, she would go as far as petitioning the director to remove teachers that she saw as unfit. "He is not a teacher," she would say. "He doesn't know what he's talking about since the text contradicts what he says, and when we ask him questions, he is not capable of answering them. Let's eliminate him and renew the professorship." Once the painters commissioned by Vasconcelos began to work, they too found themselves at the mercy of the antics of the Cachuchas. Upon erecting their scaffolds, the mischievous students would light the wood shavings left behind by the scaffolds on fire, resulting in great damage to the painters' work. In response, some opted to wear huge pistols as a deterrent. Frida first met Diego Rivera because of this project in 1922. He was 36 and she just 14. While striking and memorable, Diego never imagined that this young woman who'd sneak into the amphitheater to taunt him by calling him names and steal his lunch would one day become his wife. Frida recalled that although she taunted him with cheeky names such as Panzón, Fatso, in her mind she'd think, "You'll see, Panzón. Now you don't pay attention to me, but one day I'll have a child by you." Although, before their story truly began, there was Alejandro Arias, the leader of the Cachuchas, with whom Frida fell in love with the summer of 1923. Alejandro, Alex Arias, was a handsome and charismatic orator and excellent athlete. He was a dedicated scholar who despised vulgarity, stupidity, and the misuse of power. He loved knowledge, justice, and irony. Alex and Frida held a secret courtship, as Frida's parents didn't approve of their relationship. To sustain secrecy, Frida would create excuses for getting home late from school and would stay up late writing letters to Alex so they'd go unnoticed by her mother. If Frida fell ill or couldn't deliver her letters, Cristina, her sister, would reluctantly serve as messenger. December 1923. "I am upset they punished me because of that idiot Escuincla Cristina, because I gave her a blow because she took my things and began to shriek for about half an hour, and later they gave me a good thrashing. And they didn't let me go to yesterday's posada, and they hardly let me go out in the street, so that I can't write you a very long letter, but I write you like this so that you will see that I always remember you even if I am sadder than anything, since you can imagine, without seeing you, punished and the whole day without doing anything because I have a terrible temper. This afternoon, I asked my mother if I could go to the plaza to buy some lace, and I came to the post office so I could write. Received many kisses from your chamaca, who misses you a lot. Say hello to Carmen, James, and Chong Li, please. Frida. Given the political hostility and riots that began on November 30th, 1923, due to a rebellion against then-President Obregón, Frida and Alex were forced to separate between December 1923 and January 1924. December 16th, 1923. Alex, I'm very sorry that yesterday at 4 I didn't go to the university, but my mother would not let me go to Mexico because they told her there was a Pola uprising. January 12th, 1924. My Alex, the thing of school registration is very green. Bad. Since a boy told me that it begins on the 15th of this month. And then there was a mess, and my mother says that I am not going to register until things are well and settled in town, Coyoacan. What do you know about the revolt? Tell me something so that I am more or less informed about how things are going, since here I am becoming more and more dumb. I put it on you, chiquito, little one, because it shames me. You will tell me to read the newspaper, but the trouble is that I am too lazy to read the newspaper and I start reading other things. By March of 1924, Vasconcelos resigned as Minister of Education as protest against the election of Plutarco Elias Calles as President of Mexico. While the Cachuchas disdained politics, they supported Vasconcelos and may have taken part in demonstrations in support of him. As time progressed, Frida's affection for Alex intensified, and as a result, she became more and more vulnerable in her letters to her first love, with whom she dreamed of one day traveling to San Francisco. Thursday, December 25th, 1924. My Alex, since I saw you, I have loved you. What do you say? Because it will probably be a few days before we can see each other. I am going to beg you not to forget your pretty little woman, eh? Sometimes at night, I am very afraid, and I would like you to be with me so that I should be less frightened, so that you can tell me that you love me as much as before, as much as last December, even if I'm an easy thing, right, Alex? You must keep on liking easy things. I would like to be even easier. A little tiny thing that you could just carry in your pocket, always, always. Alex, write to me soon, and even if it's not true, tell me that you love me very much and that you can't live without me. Your chamaca, escuincla, or woman, or whatever you want. Frida. Frida held many jobs in her adolescence, although work was really hard to find. While she hoped to one day be able to afford her dreams of traveling abroad, her earnings were mostly used to contribute to her family's income. In the summer of 1925, Frida studied shorthand and typing at Oliver Academy with the hope of securing employment at the Ministry of Education Library. Frida wrote, "They pay $4 to $4.50, and to me, that doesn't seem bad at all. But the first thing I need is to know something about typing and charm. So just imagine how backward your pal is." Of this period, Alejandro Gomez Arias reported that a female employee of the Ministry of Education Library seduced Frida. In 1938, Frida would recount that her initiation into homosexual sex was one of her school teachers. For her, it was a traumatic experience given that it became quite public and scandalous because her parents found out. August 1st, 1925. I am full of the most terrible sadness, but you know that not everything is as one would want it to be, and what's the point of talking about it? At the end of the letter, she drew a crying face. During this time frame, she found work in a factory as well as a paid apprenticeship with her father's friend, Fernando Fernandez, a successful commercial painter. He taught Frida to draw by having her copy prints by Swedish impressionist Andres Zorn, and soon discovered that Frida had enormous talent. Alejandro Gomez Arias reported that Frida had a brief affair with Fernando Fernandez, which would prove to be a great hurdle for their relationship. By the age of 18, Frida was an insightful, strong-willed woman who experienced life on her terms and who endured various traumatic events. Guillermo Kahlo, her father, held a photo shoot for his family on February 7th, 1926, where Frida showcases her signature pose, a compelling gaze straight into the camera. In the first portrait, she poses in a satin dress, which was not at all in fashion, but which she clearly fancied. Here, she carefully hides her thin right leg with her left while looking straight ahead. Later, she poses in menswear for the family portrait. Everyone else is appropriately dressed for the times, but Frida confidently stands out with stunning boldness and beauty. It's unclear whether her fashion choices were done with mischief in mind. Regardless, these portraits showcase the lively personality of a woman who'd win the world over with her strength, charisma, and talent. And that's it for my video today. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Next time I will be covering her accident, which happened on September 17th, 1925. I'm really looking forward to that episode, although it's been really hard for me to research that part of it because I can really feel her pain in all the letters that she wrote to Alejandro and friends. Anyway, next I will be covering a few of the new designs that I have created since my last video. This time there are only 3, not intentional, not at all. Let's get started, let's do this. These are one of them. This is the 3rd iteration of this pattern that I have kind of tweaked. The original is from the creative, what book is it? Let me go get it. For the design I'm most excited about, I took inspiration from creative beading, and there's this beautiful pattern on page 175 that I just couldn't resist. So I took it in, made it my own, and here we are. This is the first iteration that actually survived, because the first design that I created, I just really didn't like. It was very experimental. Let's just say that. This is actually very pretty, very dainty and delicate, and I love the concept of using 2 patterns around the same center focal bead, but honestly this center bead is a little too tiny and it just doesn't stand out. Not enough anyway for the amount of work that went into this. Anyway, for the next design I chose bigger beads that are about 6 millimeters wide, and I think this one lends itself a lot better for this design. I did tweak the pattern from its original design to have different beads in the center because I feel like dimensionality is something that it was missing. And I'm considering doing something even bigger, grander, more beautiful, and I hope to showcase it in the next video. The next design was actually something that I had started a few weeks way back in the day. I mean, it feels like way back in the day, but it really was just a few weeks ago. I created this flower, but I didn't really like how it came out initially. The thing that I mainly didn't like about it was my use of color, or the lack of color. The petals just don't stand out to me. And I feel like I should have used something that was bolder, and therefore I wasn't too keen on this design. But as I was reading the biography of Frida Kahlo, I really felt like I needed to use nails because they just speak to Frida, right? Beauty and strength and hardship, and I think that nails would work really beautifully with a Frida Kahlo inspired collection, and therefore I added little mini nail fringes, and I love them. They are so charming, and just everything that they lacked, they now have. They have boldness, subtlety, and beauty, and I think they definitely speak to Frida. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I have certainly enjoyed creating it. I have really loved reading and condensing and putting all of this together. I hope you have as well. I will talk to you again very soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to sign up to my newsletter so that you never miss out on anything that goes on around here. I will talk to you again very soon. Bye. This is DC.